What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for this week's review of Obi-Wan Kenobi. First off, I just want to kick things off by saying, wow, what an episode, what a series. Part 6 was a fantastic conclusion, and this show overall was absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. There were quite a few unexpected twists and turns. Even in this episode, I was pretty surprised by a few things that happened, and overall, I am just super happy with this show. But, as it pertains to episode 6 in particular, we kick things off with Riva on Tatooine and with Vader hunting Kenobi. So Riva is already on Tatooine when this episode begins, and she's obviously looking for Owen Lars, and then we have Vader, who in the last episode, Roken said that the Empire was right behind Obi-Wan's ship, and in this episode, we pick up right from there. Vader is on his Star Destroyer, and they are pursuing the refugees, and obviously, Obi-Wan is on that ship. It's made clear right from the start that they are not going to be able to evade the Imperial forces, so Obi-Wan takes a transport and he leaves the refugees knowing that Vader will follow him, and he leaves Leia with Haja, who gives Obi-Wan his word that he will get her home. Now, before he leaves, Roken tells him that he doesn't have to go, but then he realizes that Obi-Wan wants to face Vader, like he needs to do this for himself. Now, based on what was actually happening, Obi-Wan really did need to do what he did. Roken was just acting and speaking out of emotion from what I could tell, but there is also definitely some truth to Obi-Wan needing to face Vader again. He needs to end this once and for all, and he knows that in leaving the refugees behind and going off on his own, Vader will follow him. The Grand Inquisitor tells Vader that they need to follow the main ship and squash the growing rebellion, but Vader insists Obi-Wan is not any other Jedi. He needs to go after Kenobi, and so that's the order that he gives. So Obi-Wan lands, Vader follows very shortly after. He comes after Kenobi alone, and Obi-Wan does not try to turn Vader. He doesn't try to reason with him. He's ready to fight. Going into this episode, knowing that they were probably going to face off again, I thought that might happen. I thought Obi-Wan might try to get Vader to come back one last time, but Obi-Wan just knows. He knows Vader is too far gone, so it's no biggie that he didn't. I just thought that he might, but it's very clear that he's ready to fight. Vader asks him if he came to destroy him, and then Obi-Wan strikes his iconic lightsaber pose, and he repeats his line from Revenge of the Sith, "I will do what I must." This is actually a relatively even match, but Vader is still in control, in my opinion anyways. Obi-Wan's definitely got his power back. Vader actually acknowledges that Obi-Wan has become stronger, but Vader is simply more powerful than Obi-Wan at this point. So he becomes very angry at one point in this duel, and he upends the ground beneath them with the Force, and then he proceeds to bury his old master, and he leaves him there for dead. He is under the assumption that Obi-Wan is dead now. But little did Vader know, Obi-Wan was still alive. He's down there in this pit, holding the rocks just above himself as he remembers Anakin, and then his mind sort of shifts to Luke and Leia, and through the twins, who he has dedicated his whole life to protecting, Obi-Wan finds the strength to push the rocks off of himself and climb out of this pit. He quickly tracks Darth Vader back down, the duel continues, Obi-Wan enters really a whole new realm of power compared to anything we've really seen from him before, in my opinion, and ultimately, he defeats Vader, striking at his chest piece over and over, recognizing that this is a weak spot in Vader's armor. Then he strikes him across the back and finally cuts across his face, exposing Anakin beneath the mask of Darth Vader. And this is a clear parallel to Ahsoka and Vader's duel in Star Wars Rebels, when Ahsoka did a very similar thing and got a clear look at her old master, Anakin Skywalker. And so with half of this apparatus that normally covers his face destroyed, Vader's voice becomes sort of muffled. You can hear a mix of the iconic Darth Vader voice with Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen's voice. And so, yeah, we've seen this same sort of thing happen in Rebels, but it was really cool to see it in live action. And it was very emotional because it allows Obi-Wan to look upon his old apprentice in the flesh for one last time. Obi-Wan becomes very emotional himself. His eyes fill with tears as he looks upon his old apprentice with regret and sorrow. He apologizes to Anakin for everything, but Vader tells him, "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin. I did, just as I will kill you." But Vader, of course, now defeated by Obi-Wan, cannot keep up the fight. And Obi-Wan can't bring himself to kill Vader. He admits that his friend is gone and he leaves him behind. And this was in a way foreshadowed by Riva in the last episode when she asked him, "Do you, Obi-Wan? Do you really want Anakin dead?" So that's how that interaction ends. This was the rematch of the century, and it was everything I had hoped it would be. Very, very well done. One of the most epic scenes in Star Wars now. A great reunion, a great rematch, and a great way to, again, as we've been talking about, feed that line in A New Hope. When Vader says, "When I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master," we see in this encounter, although Obi-Wan didn't like outsmart Vader really in any way, he defeated him. Vader was not ready to face Obi-Wan again. And at the end of the episode, we have this interaction between Vader and Sidious, where they talk about Obi-Wan, and Sidious sort of suggests that maybe Vader hasn't been able to let go of his past yet, and of course Vader says Kenobi means nothing and he has put the past behind him, but we can see here that the past does still haunt Darth Vader, and his master recognizes that. So, now we flip back to Tatooine. Riva is hunting Luke. Owen and Beru have prepared for a fight because the villager who Riva questioned told Owen that she was looking for Luke, and so Riva makes her way through the desert to the Lars homestead. She fights off Owen and Beru, and then she goes back into the desert in pursuit of Luke, who is on the run, and it's apparent to me now that she does know that Luke is the son of Anakin Skywalker. That's why she's pursuing him. She wants revenge. She hunts him in the same way that Vader hunted the other Jedi through the temple on the night of Order 66. But when she finally catches him, she can't bring herself to kill him. She's not like Vader. So she brings Luke back as Obi-Wan returns to Tatooine. Her and Obi-Wan have a little conversation. Obi-Wan essentially says, you know, the life that you live from here is up to you, and Riva chooses to leave her lightsaber in the sand, and she chooses to go live a new life of her own choosing, whatever that may be. And so that was a quality story arc for Riva, and I find it very interesting now that she is one of the only people in the galaxy who knows about the twins and is going to live on with this knowledge. So after this, Obi-Wan comes back to the homestead and he has a little conversation with Owen. He promises Owen that he is largely going to stay away and that the boy's future will figure itself out. And as he departs, Owen asks Obi-Wan if he wants to meet Luke, which Obi-Wan of course is delighted to do. So Obi-Wan has his first proper meeting with Luke Skywalker for the first time since his birth, when he delivered Luke to his aunt and uncle in Revenge of the Sith. And it's here that for the first and last time in this series, Obi-Wan delivers his famous "Hello there."
Hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there.
He also does go to Alderaan to return Leia's droid to her. He briefly tells her a little bit about her real parents and how he sees their qualities in her. Leia asks if she will ever see him again, and Obi-Wan says maybe, and he assures both her and the Organas that if they ever need his help, he will be there for them. And this is a clear contrast from his point of view in episode 1, when he was very hesitant to leave Tatooine and go out and help Leia and become who he used to be again. So we actually have two emotional goodbyes between Obi-Wan and Leia, and again, as we talked about in last week's episode, it's definitely sad to think that this is probably the last time these two are ever going to see each other again, until Obi-Wan is finally struck down by Darth Vader in A New Hope. And something that I think this series has really done a good job of is, one, it's given a lot more meaning to Leia naming her son after Obi-Wan Kenobi, and two, it just feels like it fit into this overall story of all three trilogies very well. It just fits in very seamlessly, and I think it sort of smooths over some of the rough patches of all three trilogies, honestly. But that is something that we will continue to get into in future videos down the road. So part 6, the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi, concludes with Obi-Wan out in the desert on his Eopie, and finally, as was hinted at and foreshadowed throughout the series, he finally meets the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. Now this is a slight change, or at least a slight development in Star Wars canon, as previously Qui-Gon was not able to show himself as a Force Ghost because his training was not complete before he died, but it is clear here that Qui-Gon continued to train after his death, and he has now discovered the full path to immortality. He can now show himself as a true Force Ghost. So I think that's pretty cool. I think they left the door open for a potential story of some sort in the future in which Qui-Gon continues to teach Obi-Wan these these new things about the Force that obviously Obi-Wan is pretty unfamiliar with. I don't necessarily think we need a season 2 of this show, but I'm definitely open and would be extremely happy to see Obi-Wan Kenobi continue to pop up in future projects when and where it is appropriate, and I would also be open to seeing some sort of, whether it's a movie or a show or some sort of special, in which Qui-Gon is able to teach Obi-Wan more about the netherworld of the Force and they're able to discuss Anakin. I think that would be a really cool thing to see. But that is going to wrap things up for this video. Overall, again, I could not be happier with this series. I absolutely loved every single episode. I honestly feel somewhat comfortable in saying that Obi-Wan Kenobi is probably my favorite show of all time. Not just Star Wars show, it's probably my favorite show I've ever watched. The only thing working against it is that it was only 6 episodes long, so maybe I could make an argument for something else that has, you know, multiple seasons and a lot more episodes, but I really thoroughly enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I hope you guys did too. So let me know what you guys thought about this series overall in the comments section below. Let me know what you thought about this episode, and until next time, remember, the Force will be with you always.